Hi everyone, it's Misty here. Thank you so much for joining me. Hey, hi, hello. In today's video, I have an update to the update video. I think I mentioned in Sunday's video that I would update you when I knew more from the neurosurgeon, and that has happened. So we're going to be talking about that in today's video. We're going to be talking about weight loss, meal planning, We're going to be talking about all of the things. So if any of that is a trigger to you, then I encourage you to skip this one for now. You can always come back to it. So I realized after posting my last video that I forgot to insert the picture of my purse, but here it is. Oh, isn't it so cute? Oh my gosh, I asked for this particular fabric with this particular color scheme. It's got a little charm. The zipper pull is strawberry shortcake. And then on the inside, there is a little container that has the scent. Smells just like her. I love it so much. Let me tell you something. It's the little things in life like this that make me happy, but I think it turned out so cute. If you're interested, let me know. The Etsy seller does predominantly strawberry shortcake, I think, but also has like Rainbow Bright and a couple other fabrics from like the 80s, etc. I want another one. I was like, I want one in every fabric. But I at least want one more because I just think they're so pretty and I don't want it to ruin. So I'd like to kind of switch them out. But anyway, that's not what we're here about. Okay. I'm stalling because, all right. So I mentioned that last week I'd gone for MRIs, and did I talk about getting the report or trying to figure out the report? I don't remember. But I could tell by the wording of the report that things, they hadn't gotten better. They hadn't gotten better. So let me kind of walk you through, give you a Cliff's Notes version of what's going on. Okay, so I have stenosis, spinal stenosis. A lot of people have it. It's genetic. That means that my spinal canal is narrowed. It's already narrowed. It's already small. I have another genetic condition called OPLL. The ossification of the posterior, meaning from the back, longitudinal, meaning up and down, ligament. So there's a ligament that runs between the disc and the spinal cord that is calcifying. It has nothing to do with my heart or anything like that. This is literally a ligament in my back. I have an old picture of my spine next to a healthy spine. Mine literally has ridges, and it should not have ridges. My spinal cord is wavy. There should be fluid on either side of it. There's none on either side of it. And that is due from bulging disc, but also due to this ligament issue. So last year, I saw a neurosurgeon and I had new imaging done, and she suggested I needed a C2 to T2 fusion. She's the third doctor that suggested I needed a C2 to T2 fusion. My goal was to have it last August. However, I ended up in the hospital with pneumonia the week of Memorial Day weekend last year. So I was like, I didn't feel comfortable having a major surgery that close to being in the hospital with pneumonia. Both my regular doctor and my neurosurgeon said it was fine, but something was telling me no. And I try to listen to my intuition as much as I can. So put off the surgery, and I've said since then, Memorial Day weekend 2025. So I saw her at the end of March, and she went in new imaging. So last Wednesday, I had a new MRI on my cervical and my thoracic spine. And in 2022, I had a neurosurgeon tell me that I didn't have enough damage for surgery. Not a big deal. And that was not true. And after leaving the doctor's appointment yesterday, I looked at Rob and said, UT Southwestern really did me dirty. Like, talk about just, and I even told that, retold that story to the PA. She hadn't heard it. She's like, are you kidding me? I was like, no, I'm not kidding you. She's like, and I said, I mean, there's nothing I'm going to do about it. But I said, I could have already had the surgery and been fine, already healed and already passed it. And now it's still looming over my head. So I already have what did that doctor say? irreversible spinal cord damage from before, and now it's worse. So much so that the neurosurgeon was like, sooner rather than later. We can't wait. And I said, okay. And they talked about like next week, and I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Or like the end of April, it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Number one, I don't want to have surgery on my birthday. Number two, it's like, I am not prepared. Like, I have a whole host of things that I want to get done before I go in for this surgery. So hold up, wait a minute. So I said, I really want to stick to May 22nd or May 23rd. And okay, we got you on the calendar for either of those days. It just depends. Those are the 2 days she does surgery. So it's really going to be dependent upon her. And I have to see a cardiologist, and I have to do the pre-op. So I have, what is that? It's probably 6 weeks to get all of that accomplished. And I have been dealing with worsening symptoms. I think I talked about this like in January or February. And it's just getting to the point where the pain is just so overwhelming, constant, and the weakness has gotten just, it's so worse. In yesterday's appointment, she's like, I really feel like your left is now weaker than your right. And I said, I don't know. I said, I'm right-handed, so I noticed more in my right hand. I was like, I can't hold anything. I mean, I can barely do my grip, which is not necessarily, this is more for the RA than anything. I said, but I have like shooting pain down like this way. This hurts. I was like, I've got numbness and tingling that comes in and out. And everything on the MRI showed what I would have been experiencing with that level of trauma to the spinal cord. So I also have issues between T6 and T10. And I had mentioned this before. I talked about how I had like issues around my rib cage and how it felt like it would be like a real, like I could feel it pinch, or like it made me feel like I was going to fall to the ground. Well, T6 through T10, all of the discs are bulging. And a couple of them have almost like, they're almost to the spinal cord. So they are causing nerve pain and nerve damage. She said, we can take care of that with a laminectomy, a little bit later down the road. And I said, can I try rhizotomy first? And she said, yeah, we can, we can do less invasive pain management first. She said, but you're probably going to have this done at some point. And I said, okay. I've had all of the emotions, like all of them. I've experienced all of them. I'm sure this is the grieving process or something, but I've experienced all of them. Anger at the flippin' neurosurgeon before, who basically told me just lied. He lied. There's no other word for it. He lied. He was dishonest. He was non-truthful. And he put my life at risk. And that is unacceptable to me, but there's nothing I'm going to do. Like, litigation is expensive. Even patients who die don't always win. Their families don't always win. Malpractice, suits. I just want to let it go and walk away. I'll never go back to UT Southwestern for anything ever again in my life. So there's that. The neurosurgeon was a bit more concerned about a few things than I think the PA was. The first is, she's like, oh, I want you off your infusion for 3 months. And I was like, oh shit. And I said, okay, because my rheumatologist said 4 to 6 weeks. She's like, no. She's like, we've got to give it 3 months. She said, so we make sure that you're fusing. She's like, an immunosuppressant is going to do the exact opposite. She's like, it's going to fight, your body's response to us basically putting 2 metal rods. Some have metal rods and then pens. I've shown a picture before. She's like, how's your yes or no? And she's like, I don't think you're going to lose much of your yes or no. She's like, you can't touch your chin to your chest. I was like, no, I've never been able to touch my chin to my chest. Like, it pulls and I can't make it any further than that. And then she said, I'll have the No, I can be able to do this, but this is going to be the issue. And I said, okay. And then she said, you may have issues with your incision. And then she looked, she's like, well, you don't actually have, she's like, I was expecting you to have a fold. I guess she was expecting me to have a fatty neck, but I don't. And she said, so we might be okay. She said, but she's like, we're going to stay on top of it. She's like, you'll have home health and all of that. So yeah, I'm sad. People keep asking me if I'm excited. Fuck no, I'm not excited. Here's how I'm feeling. Hopeful. Terrified. Anxious. Betrayal. I guess that's not an emotion. Sad. I've been feeling sad for weeks now. It's just, I know it doesn't make any sense, and it may not even really make sense, but I've said over and over, if this was something I did to myself, I think I would have I would be able to accept it more, because it was my fault. I did it. So this is a direct consequence for something that I've done to my body. That's not what this is. Even if I was 115 pounds, I could have this issue and need this surgery. So my weight has nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. It could possibly, now L3 through whatever, yeah, that could be weight related. But I also have arthritis that's genetic. I have this CVID, what's caused an autoimmune disease. Like, there's so much going on. I have the FSHD, which is a form of muscular dystrophy. There's so much going on outside of my control. And so I think that's my biggest issue. And like I said, I'm still dealing with anger from that neurosurgeon, because I feel like he took my choice away. And if he had just said, I'm not comfortable operating on you the size you are now, if you will lose some weight, I will operate, I'll feel free to operate on, or maybe I will operate on you. But to tell me that he's not inclined to offer me a surgery because it's not serious enough for surgery, it's really impeded my quality of life. They're going to go in, and so how this works is they're going to go in, she's going to do a laminectomy, meaning she's going to remove the part of the disc that is touching the spinal cord. So all of that's going to be gone. In order to make sure our neck is supported, or my neck is supported, she has to put in 2 metal rods. So we're talking about from my neck to the middle of my shoulder blades, basically. And then she's going to put pins in the disc. So my body is going to fuse, the bones are going to fuse together around this metal and keep my head stabilized. What this does is it releases the pressure on the spinal cord. The spinal cord damage is the spinal cord damage. There's no getting better. None of that, there's no making that better. It is what it is. And if I had known in 2022 or 2023 that I needed this surgery, I would have had this surgery 2 years ago. And I wouldn't be here right now where it's like, no. And again, it's just, emotions and fear and stuff like that aren't always logical, right? They just are what they are. And I'm giving myself space to feel whatever I need to feel. So when we left that appointment, Rob's like, how are you doing? I said, I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I said, because I have a date. And I feel like, I talked to my psychiatrist on Monday, and I said, the last few weeks, I felt like I was suffering from executive dysfunction, where there was just so much stuff to do that I just couldn't do any of it. But I said, but I don't think that's it. I said, I feel paralyzed because it's such this looming thing, this huge unknown. I just can't even comprehend it yet. You know what I mean? So when it became a reality yesterday, I felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders, because it's like, okay, I know what it is, and now I can plan for that. So when I saw my therapist this morning, I was like, she's like, how are you feeling? She's like, I know you were anxious. And I said, I feel more energized today than I have in the last 3 weeks. I said, I feel like I was paralyzed by like getting this date. This was the last unknown. Until yesterday, this entire surgery was just something that was out there. It wasn't concrete enough. And now that it is concrete enough, I feel like I have a plan. So she and I were talking, and I told her about the biopsy, and I told her, and she's like, are you preparing for worst case scenario? I said, no, I'm not preparing for worst case scenario. I said, I am trying to make a plan, have a plan in place, because I said, if this is a cancer, how is it going to have to be treated? I said, and is it going to impact surgery? Because I have to have the surgery done. So it's like, if it is melanoma or whatever, and I'm at a higher risk for it genetically, but I'm also a higher risk for it because I've been probably 12 sunburns to blisters when I was growing up. You can see that I'm fair. I was even fairer growing up, and sunscreen probably went on, but was never reapplied. And I wasn't so concerned about the spot on my stomach because that's never seen sun. This has seen sun. This has been burned. So, but I said, I didn't think about it again until you and I talked. I said, that is so far beyond my thought process. And I said, my only real concern, I mean, other than it being cancer or whatever, I said, how is this going to affect surgery? Because if it's going to negatively impact surgery, then that's going to make things, it's going to change the conversation. And then we talked about, the blood sugar thing. And I said, I'm trying to keep my stress level down as much as possible. I said, that's why I made a plan. And then today I'm going to sit down and make a list. What I would like to get done before surgery and what must be done before surgery. So must, we're talking, I pay the bills. So I need to tell Rob, which bills get paid on which paycheck, how those bills get paid, all of the username and passwords. I mean, this is information he probably should already have, but it hasn't been written down before. We have talked about an advance directive, etc., but we don't have one. Like, I don't know that I want to take care of that right now. I mean, he has medical authority and he can do what I've already told him my wishes. So like, that's kind of in the back of my head. I got to figure out this meal shit. Like, that's in the back of my head. I need to make sure that everything is just like ready to go and I can just walk out of here with no worries. And so, yeah. And the other thing, so those are kind of things that I feel like are helping me. I have a plan. I have a backup plan if the plan doesn't go through. Like, next week I see this stupid endocrinologist. And I'm going to end up missing a Manjaro shot this weekend because I guess I didn't realize that the Chickasaw Nation was going all the way through insurance. And even if insurance denied, like, because they can't fill the prescription if I may bump up, because it would be 4 weeks before I could bump up. And I told my therapist today, I was like, I can't wait that long. Like, I need something to happen. I wanted it to happen 3 weeks ago, not now. You know what I mean? I was like, because I cannot go into surgery with my blood sugars elevated. I said, I can't. I'm already at risk of infection because of the immune business. I said, to throw this on top of it, I said, this is just not good. And my psychiatrist is like, I'm worried that I don't want you to go into surgery in the state of mind that you, like, in a depressive episode. And I said, and he said, I want you to talk to the doctor who is responsible for this Spravato treatment and ask them to move to every 2 weeks. If you remember, oh God, was that December or January? I don't remember. I did ask. And she was like, he really wants to, not my psychiatrist, but the other psychiatrist, the dosage, the one that does the dosing. He really wants you to try every 3 weeks first. And then if that's not working, then we'll go to every 2 weeks. The issue is, I don't think I can bump up in dosage. I'm currently on 56. You can go up to 84, but the 2 times I went up to 84, I was so fucking sick, I could barely function. I could barely move. If you've ever had altitude sickness and vertigo, imagine them together at the same time. That's how I felt. Plus this the entire time. And I just like, I don't know, but I'm going to try more frequently. And hopefully once this passes and I'm on the other side, then hopefully my mood will improve and those kinds of things too. So, yeah. And I want to sit down and break it down week by week. And I told her, I said, I'm taking it one day at a time. And I said, I want to give myself permission to have to take a rest day. Like next Tuesday, we go to Durant to see the doctor. It's going to be 2 hours in the car there, 2 hours in the car back. I have to go to labs. I have to go get my labs done. I have to go get an ultrasound. I have to see him. That is a lot of walking around. That is a lot of physical exertion, but also mental exertion, because going into this appointment with him, I'm going to go in there and be an advocate for myself. So if he's going to be a jackass, I'm going to call him out for being a jackass, because when it comes to my health, I don't play that. And I allowed him to be dismissive and condescending in the last appointment. I'm not going to bite my tongue this time, because I have plan B. And plan B is my primary care physician, who said, if he isn't, if you're not working out that way, call me. But I also have the primary care physician in Durant that I can ask if he can take over my care and then give me a referral to the Diabetes Wellness Center. So I feel like I have a plan B for everything. And that has made me feel loads better. I mean, as better as I can feel. She's like, all this anxiety. And I'm like, I said, yeah, I guess it's anxiety. I said, worry and anxiety, I guess, are the same thing. I said, but I'm not fixated on it. Like, it's there, but I feel like it's driving me. It's where my drive is coming from. Because, again, once I set a goal, I have to complete it. I don't know if that's the Taurus in me, or if that's just the firstborn in me, or what. And we talked about, I told you guys about the exercise we did where you put the worries on the leaf and let the worries float down the stream. And I said, I think I wasn't able to let those worries go because I've never had an outlet for them, ever. And there was a lot of worry and stuff about my mother, how she was going to react, how she was treating me, etc. And I said, and I believe that became my drive and my ambition to know that I had to get out. And to get out, I had to do these 3 things. And I had a plan, and I executed that plan. And I said, the only worry I would have now, other than the actual surgery, is can I execute what I need to execute? And that's why I want what I would like to get done before surgery and what has to be done before surgery. And I think, prioritizing that, but allowing myself to have time and space to do the things that I would like to do. So yeah, I bought my cute little cow for surgery. I don't care if I look like an idiot. I need something comforting and soothing before I go into the surgery. And if I have to have a stuffed animal, then I'm going to have a fucking stuffed animal. I don't care. I honestly don't care what anybody thinks, because and like I told her today, it's like, I can only control what I can control. She's like, yep. I said, and I have to make sure that I am in the best health that I can be in going into this surgery. And I'm not expecting miracles. I'm not expecting to be down 50 pounds by the end of May, but I am expecting to be in much better health, diabetes wise, those kinds of things, by the time we get there. So, and then, so got dressed yesterday, no problem. I did take a picture in the outfit that's been my weigh-in outfit. I'll try to remember to pop it up. I don't feel like my stomach is swollen. Listen, GLP-1s fucks up your digestive system. And I have some swelling in the top of my abdomen. That's why, like, right under my boobs, it looks swollen and the rest of it looks flat. That is, I don't know if it's gastroparesis, but it's something. And so I am constantly bloated right there. So, but I don't know. And I'm wearing a better bra. So, like, I don't know. But here's the picture. I did weigh yesterday morning. I was 322. So at least 6 pounds of water weight has come off. And I'm sure more has. I'm able to see the veins in my foot better. But so yesterday I got dressed, no problem. When we were leaving, I had my rollator and I hit the door jamb pretty heavily. And I remember it hitting my leg. So we get home, I take off my jeans, and I'll insert a picture. I have a bruise that's about this big. And about this, like this tall. And it's like and it's a hard knot and it's hot. And Rob's like, well, that couldn't have just happened. And I'm like, did that just happen? but there's also little bruises all the way around it. And I'm like, is this a blood clot? Like, the fuck is happening? And so I called Vanguard, which is a vascular place that I've gone before. And she was like, you know, I spoke to the doctor. She doesn't think it's serious. She's like, but she definitely wants you to come in. So I go tomorrow for them to scan it. But yeah, I mean, I was like, I have no idea where this came from. And again, my concern are the little like fingertip bruises all the way around it, and the fact that it is raised and hard as a knot, and you know, is hot. So I was like, I need my body to chill the fuck out, because I don't need one more thing to worry about, like something like this, like a blood clot. Like, again, anything that could, you know, prevent surgery, I need not to happen. So that's, and I can only control what I can control. So I'm just going to have to, you know, suck it up and do what I can do and just kind of be okay with that. So in Sunday's video, I talked about meal planning and stuff like that. My goal is to fast today. My blood sugar got up to 340 last night. It was 213 when I woke up. I've had a coffee today. I'm sitting at 275. So I had coffee with the sugar-free syrups. And then I tried the is it 1UP? I think it's 1UP protein powder. You may have seen the ads on Facebook. It's a clear protein. And I got the Italian ice because I love lemon, anything flavored lemon, and it's good. So I had a whole scoop of protein powder is 30 grams of protein. So I've had at least 30 grams of protein today. It's 1:30. Like I said, I was going to fast, but I'm just like, I'm hungry. And I pulled one of the tater tot casserole bases out of the freezer, and I'm going to have one of those today. So yeah, I had Rob get me some orzo because I was going to make like an orzo pasta dish and throw in a bunch of veggies, but I am not in the mood to cook like that. Plus I've put on makeup today, and that always takes a lot out of me. Filming takes a lot out of me. So yeah, hopefully this made any lick of sense. I feel like I just talked all around everything. Moral of the story, TLDR, surgery, May 22nd or 23rd. Spinal cord damage, worse. Bulging disc at T6 through T10 that will need surgery at some point, but I'm going to try to do facet injections and then a rhizotomy. 3 months without an infusion, which, did I tell you that part? No, I didn't. Okay. Did I? No. So I called my rheumatologist office yesterday because they were like, we're going to send something over to her, you know, and I said, y'all can figure it out. Y'all can figure it out. But I went ahead and called her medical assistant and left a message. I'm like, hey, you know, the neurosurgeon has said, you know, 3 months. I said, but, you know, the PA last week said 4 to 6 weeks. And I said, I know you're not comfortable with more than 4 to 6 weeks. But at the same time, it's like I have to trust the surgeon. And she said, you know, push it out to 6 to 8 weeks past surgery. And if you are in a really bad flare and you need help, then I can talk to her then and see what we can do. So I told you guys that I made an appointment for the, I think it's June 17th. Yeah, it's June 18th because it's Juneteenth that day. And, for an infusion, and I said, okay, I'm going to be like 3 weeks post-op. Does she still want to see me even though I'm not going to have an infusion? So I'm waiting to hear back if I need to keep that appointment or not. I have a couple of others that I'm going to have to reschedule. I need to reach out to my primary care physician. Like, I have a list. These are the things on my list. So yeah, that's what's happening. That's what's happening. I want to buy all of the things. Like, I have filled an Amazon cart and emptied an Amazon cart and filled an Ulta cart and emptied an Ulta cart. I'm doing my best not to shop. I've avoided any kind of, you know, shopping haul related videos, even though I posted one for me the other day. like I'm really trying hard not to use shopping or eating as a coping mechanism. But if someone wants to send me like $5,000 so I can buy all the things, I would appreciate it. So yeah, anywho, that's it. I still want to vlog. Oh, I re-downloaded Chronometer. I don't remember. That is the app I used when I was on keto, and I inputted my recipe, and it came up to like 530 calories per serving, 30 grams of carbs, 30 grams of protein, and 30 grams of fat. So basically, they all cancel each other out. So I do have protein powder. I have the Fairlife protein shakes. Yeah, I think someone said 170. That's probably right. 170, 180. I know there is a calculation, and I'll find it and figure it out. But my biggest goal is going to be, trying to get enough protein in without cottage cheese. Let me tell you something. Have you ever tried cottage cheese, Misty? Mm-hmm. When did you try cottage cheese, Misty? Well, my grandmother used to like to eat it with raw tomatoes and black pepper. And she also loved to eat day-old cornbread and buttermilk. And I don't like either. Ugh. Yeah, I was about to say, I had black eyed peas the other day from a restaurant, and they were just bad. They were so bad. And I was just like, I was missing my grandmother's black eyed peas. My brother was like, I'll try to get off. I'm like, no, you don't have to take that day off. I was like, this is going to be a 10 to 12 hour surgery. I said, I don't even know if you would be able to see me after I'm in recovery. I said, you won't have anything to do. You need to stay up there with Boone. And he's like, well, Boone and I tried to come down. I'm like, yeah, I'll be home about 15 days after surgery if I go to rehab. And he said, you think Boone will be too much for you then? I was like, maybe. I said, so we'll play it by ear. I said, but you don't have to worry about coming down. That day. I'll have Rob, keep you posted. I've asked Rob, it's like, do you want to try to take some stuff to work on that day? Like, what do you want to do? And I told my therapist this too. It's like, I'm trying to make sure that he has something to occupy him too, rather than just sitting in the, the waiting room for an entire day and a half. Not day and a half, but you know what I mean? Like, just, and I don't even know if he has to stay there. Like, there are so many things that we didn't talk about that we should have, but I can reach back out and find out about that. But, people keep asking me if I'm excited. No, not really. I wouldn't say excited. I mean, I am hopeful. And like I said, if I even get 50% relief, I will consider this a successful surgery. And for the love of all things holy, please don't leave. Please don't leave. Please don't leave comments without how much it didn't work for you or any, like, please don't do that. I literally had an Uber driver say, oh yeah, that Methodist almost killed me. I was like, please don't tell me that. I trust my surgeon. I trust her PA. And that's like, I worry about anesthesia, being out that long, being on my chest that long, like having my head screwed in. Like, I have, like, there's some worries. So there's not excitement, but I'm ready. It has to be done, and I'm ready to get it done. And I want this done and to move on. You know what I mean? Like, I want it done so I can move on. And I told Rob everything happens for a reason. I believe that. I really do believe that. And so there's a reason why that doctor didn't operate on me. And while I can be mad at it, I can also trust that it happened for a reason. But I still can't help but feel angry and sad and disappointed and betrayed. And if I hadn't made that fucking offhand comment to that neurosurgeon last March, who would even know? Who would even know? Because no one, the other doctor I saw was more concerned with my lumbar spine, because that's where I'd already had surgery, and that's where he made, spin his focus. And when I said, what about the neck? He's like, I'm not even worried about the neck. I didn't even check the neck. I didn't even look at the neck. So, yes. So I know what's happening the last week. I am going to have my head shaved. I'm going to do my nails. They said I could keep the powder on. So I am going to put on just a clear powder and get them as short as possible. I can't take the powder off or I will immediately bite them off. And I haven't bit them since my last surgery, which was October 2019. And I'm not trying to start now. So she gave me the go ahead to have it on. So I'm going to leave it on. Get them done like the day before surgery. Make sure I have everything packed and ready to go. I almost bought dry shampoo the other day. No. One of the gifts from Ulta for my birthday is dry shampoo. The birthday gifts for April suck. So I'm not placing an Ulta order because I was thinking I should get like a travel shampoo, not shampoo, like body wash and, have things ready to go. But I was like, I don't need dry shampoo and I don't need shampoo and conditioner because it's just going to be my head. So yeah. Making a list, checking it twice. I'm a planner. That's what I need to do. All right, so that's enough jibber jabber. I have no idea how long I've been talking to you guys, but I appreciate you listening. For those of you who... For those of you who've been with me since 2017, you've listened to all of my recaps of my appointments, the myasthenia gravis diagnosis, losing the myasthenia gravis, diagnosis, having to go through genetic testing on my own. And to know that this could have been taken care of years ago is just frustrating. And it probably should have been taken care of before we did not probably before, but at least after. And to be that neurosurgeon and say that we don't know where my symptoms are coming from when I literally have a rippled spinal cord is just infuriating. If you feel like you've been told something by your doctor and something doesn't feel right, get a second opinion. And I know that's easy for me to say because we have insurance, etc. I completely understand that. I do. But at the end of the day, I think I read something the other day that 92% of women who catch breast cancer at stage 1 survive. It's already hard as a woman to navigate the health field. And so, when you're talked down to or you're made to think that you're crazy, the gaslighting, etc., just know that you are not alone. I've been through it. I understand it. And if you can, continue to push. I knew something was wrong. So yeah, all right. I don't think I'll start vlogging tomorrow. Maybe I'll start vlogging next week. I'll sit down with you guys and we'll talk about a meal plan and have a course of action going and just see what I can get accomplished over the next few months. I mean, I'll do full day of eatings, but I'll also share with you what I'm tackling, etc. Again, mostly for me. Mostly for me. So I can have a record of things. I am going to start tracking because, again, I need to make sure I'm prioritizing protein and getting at least, you know, at the bare minimum 1,200 calories a day. And, you know, make sure I'm taking my daily vitamin, which I always do, you know, and just staying on top of things and get my protein levels back up and, you know, make sure there's nothing going on with my thyroid and hopefully get on a higher dose of Manjaro and be able to get the blood sugars down and maybe everything will work in harmony. Perfect harmony. I was like, what song is it? I might do the world to see. Perfect harmony. That's that Coke commercial, right? Anyway, okay, bye.